And hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm not sure what number this is, 101, 102?
101.
101. We're on the Highway 101 doing Tech Down Over. So this is our pre-show show. It's going to go real quickly because we already had a pre-show for the last 15 minutes. So after the pre-show, we will start. Are we good? We're streaming? Okay, so we are going to start the show recording. You count us down. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over, show number 101. I am joined today by B&H. No, not the B&H you're thinking of. This is the Blanchard and Holbrook B&H. And you know our co-host, my good friend Jeff Blanchard, also known as 00 Blanchard.
Yes.
Jeff, how are you today?
Good, thank you. I thought it would be great just to have one last show to wrap up the year, because it's been quite a busy year.
It has. It's been a crazy year. So we're good, and we have with us, well, we'll introduce him right after the intro. Here we go. And we are back. And today we've got with us, oh, he just joined us. There he is in the middle. That is Jeff Holbrook. He's a podcaster, and he's one of our hosts now. He hosts with Jeff Blanchard a show called The Weekly Catch-Up. And
it's good to be here. I'm really looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, especially after we did our emailing back and forth and found out we have a lot in common.
Yeah, and it's sort of interesting because now we're hitting all the extreme time zones almost. We've got Jeff Holbrook. He is in West Virginia. Jeff Blanchard is in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm in the middle of the country, the strange part of the country, California, which is West Coast. So we are here. We're actually, through the magic of internet, Skype, and vMix, here we are. We're sharing a show. And we were talking a little bit about gear early, and we were showing, let's show our new shot. We just hooked up our second camera. And so this is what our studio looks like. That's Clark Ostrander. He is running the show right now. And right behind him, directly in front of him, you see a couple of the lights. That's the audio stack. That's what we use to do all of our microphone inputs. And those are all compressors, limiters, and gates. And if you don't know what that are, one compresses the sound and squeezes it. The other one limits how high it goes so you don't clip. And the third one is a gate, which gets rid of any of the outside noise. And it's pretty quiet in here. Plus, we have a lot of soundproofing. And then behind him, there's three what we call Skype machines. They're little PCs, which are kind of like Mac Minis, but they work a lot better. And they're quieter. And these are using... what are we using on those boards? Those are not boards, but they're ITX boards. Most PCs are built with ATX boards. These are the ITX. They're really small, and we put them in that's not a Cooler Master. What is that one?
Oh, these are Antex.
These are Antex. So we've got them all in Antec cases. They're very quiet, nice big fans in them, and they just run beautifully. Very, very not noisy. And then the big monitor, the 32-incher that you see in front of Clark, that's our vMix workstation software. That's our switching software. Actually made not far from Jeff. It's a little bit of the northern Australia, I guess, north of Sydney.
Yeah, Queensland, isn't it?
I think it's Queensland, yes.
Yep. So, north of Sydney.
In fact, they just had a show, and they only have 20 and 20 on bandwidth, 20 down and 20 up. So they're struggling to do some of what they enable us to do. They can't do 4K streaming. They don't have enough bandwidth. Oh. They can do 1080p, which is, I think we're doing either 1080 or 720 right now, which we'll probably move it up to 1080 because we have enough bandwidth. We actually right now have a great amount of bandwidth. We moved to our new offices, and now we have 500. So that's a lot of bandwidth, and we're
good move.
It's nice. It's like, we shine at night from all that bandwidth, but it's pretty cool. It's probably radiating us like there's no tomorrow, and it's a lot of fun. So that's our current studio. We've got in front of us two low blender lights. Actually, we don't have any camera on those, but the blenders are real interesting. That one's really dim. There it goes. It was totally down. little bit better. We've been doing a lot of moving around and doing all sorts of stuff in here. And then we've upgraded our camera since the last we talked, Jeff. Now you're seeing this on the XA35, the Canon XA35 camcorders, which are really run and gun kind of press operations. They're very good for ENG work, electronic news gathering, broadcasting, live, any of that kind of stuff. And they're good. They're SDI, so we have they're HDMI and SDI, serial digital interface, which is like a mini coax, and those are now transmitting signals into our Decklink Duo card. We have two inputs and two outputs on that one. We're going to be upgrading that card to a 4K card in the near future. Not that we're going to stream 4K, but you never know. Because YouTube, it compresses everything down to different formats anyway, so we're good. So while we're doing the show, we're streaming and we are recording it at the same time, so that we then take the recording and move it up to Vimeo. So we keep them on YouTube and we keep them on Vimeo. We get more views on Vimeo, we think, only because YouTube doesn't give you any idea what you're really getting. You get something, but we have no idea what. It's not very accurate. And so Jeff, Holbrook. Let's go back.
Well, you can call him Jeff 1 since he's the official
Jeff
guy.
1,
I'll be Jeff
right.
2. I'm good.
You'll be Jeff 2. So Jeff 2. You've been doing broadcasting podcasting, which is like broadcasting, for a while now. I think about 2-3 years.
Yeah, about 2.5. My first actual podcast that I put out was on September 29th, 2014, and I picked September 29th. It was an auspicious date, being my 51st birthday, so I decided I would start podcasting then.
That's funny. So you were doing mainly audio podcasting?
Yes. I have video is all new to me because Jeff has really introduced me to it, and like you say, I have a C920, one of the Logitech C920 cameras, which I had planned on using just basically for some streaming on some other podcasting shows that happened to also do video when I was a guest. And so, and I've read a little bit about lighting and stuff like that. You got to be careful of this shiny head, you know how that goes. And but audio I've been involved, I guess, in audio since I was a little kid. We had a family singing group, Christian singing group, for like 20 years. And we had voice training whenever we were smaller and up till when our voices were changing and everything. And so, and then we did believe it or not, when I was in the 8th grade, we made an 8-track tape back in the day.
Back in the day.
And so, I'm used to, I was on stage before I realized I was supposed to be scared about it.
Well, it's funny. You bring that up, and that reminded me of somebody I just saw on YouTube from a long time ago. Do you remember the group, the Cowsills?
Yes. Matter of fact, I think I have some of them on MP3.
Yeah, they were fun. I mean, fill your head with hair. Wild, beautiful hair.
I could use that.
Shiny, streaming, gleaming, waxen, waxen. Hey, fill your head with hair. Hair! Well, anyway, I saw them recently perform. There was a video maybe from a couple years back, and the lead singer now kind of has your hairstyle.
Oh,
and he's
nice.
singing, fill your head with hair. And I was going, there's something not right the way he's singing that now. But it was really funny. And they still sound pretty good. I mean, they're all now in their 50s and 60s and who knows how old. They sounded good. They were actually fun to watch. I was going, I can't believe these people are still playing after all those years. So it was sort of interesting. But and how did you guys met on Blab?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, that's right. And I was just thinking, Rick, do you realise it's a year, about until this week, a year ago, that we did our last Blab?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Over a year ago, because Rick and I sort of got into the Blab, tried it, but it wasn't very successful for doing a couple of shows on. But that's exactly where I met Jeffrey K Holbrook on there. We used to get in on Blab, and there's a constant 2 or 3 people that always used to be there. But we ended up spending a couple of hours speaking on there, and then we both said, this is just too much time invested in this. So we said, let's just make a point. We'll just do it once a week and call, and then that's when we came up with the idea of the weekly catch-up.
That's pretty good. How many shows have you guys done on the weekly catch-up already?
We're up to show 30.
30, that's pretty good.
30, yes, and we've done the 2 now already on RELATECASTS, So hopefully we'll go back and maybe copy them and put them all on the Vimeo channel as well.
Sure. That's what we did. We started putting them all back on, and it's fun. It's actually fun doing the podcasting and getting into it. We started this about 8 years ago now, and it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe how fast time goes. It just whizzes. And 7 or 8 years ago, I think we started. 3, 4,
Well,
5, yeah, probably about that long.
Well, that's funny, Rick. You know, we were saying how Jeff and I met. Well, I'll just tell Jeff and all of the viewers how Rick and I met. Well, it was about when Rick started up doing podcasting. Well, years ago, I decided I wanted to get into this called e-learning. And so I found a product at the time called Captivate 4. And I thought, how on earth do I use this? So I looked on YouTube, and then I saw Rick doing a few podcasts on Captivate 4. So
Yeah, about 80.
Logged in and did some on 5, and then all of a sudden he said, I'm going to start this new show, and we're going to, with Terence Wing, we're going to call it E-Learn Chat. And so then I started watching that, and then we actually arranged to meet up at one of the conferences in Orlando, I think it was, Rick.
Yep.
Yeah, in Orlando.
Mhm.
That's when we first met up. And then we've been sort of friends ever since. You know, they say the social media and computers stop people from actually interacting with people. But I tell you, if it wasn't for this, I would have never interacted with somebody so far away. But it's quite amazing, isn't it?
It is interesting, and it is amazing how you can develop friendships over the internet with people you don't know. Now, you have to be careful because some of those people could be crazy, but you don't know. So you have to give it a shot. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and we did meet that way, and through Twitter.
Yep, and through Twitter. But then, like as you said, we got to know each other first before we made sure we weren't both crazies.
Wait a minute, I thought you were crazy. No?
Oh, is that's why we get along so well. So. No, it's just spending a lot of money on gear.
Well, you know what Jeff doesn't realize is that our area, Camarillo, where we live, which is northwest of Los Angeles by about, or LA Airport by about 50 miles, is where we had one of the top psychiatric hospitals in the country. And if you folks remember the old song Hotel California,
yeah,
come out to the Hotel California. It's a lovely place. You can get in, but you can never get out. Well, that was actually inspired by the California State Mental Hospital at Camarillo.
Oh, okay.
And it's really interesting. When the Eagles did the song, it was all about our mental state hospital. And you can come in, but you can't get out. And now that's a university, which means the same clientele, just younger.
Oh well, but that's the thing with, as I said, with all of us being crazy enough, I suppose, to have the gear addiction. That's where Jeffrey came into it as well. And with going on to Blab, one of the things I know anybody can do a cheap podcast and that, but I think Jeff and me and Rick all think the same thing. When the audio is so awful, I just can't stand it. And Jeff just stood out to me straight away because his audio always sounded quite nice. And there was a few people on there that had quite awful audio. And this one fella, he had a cheap Shure, what's it, PG58, you know, the whole one.
The old venerable P58.
I've just got a cheap rubbish one. I said, well, plug that in. And it was just amazing. It said, you don't need, just better than the old one on the headphones or the camera. I said, just and it just improved his sound quality so much. And I must admit, I'm hooked a little bit on sound. I know I like a lot of video, but I think it's nothing if you don't have good sound on it. And Jeff, I believe you've bought yourself something else in the microphone business.
Jeff is frozen? Can we get to Jeff's?
Oh.
I think his Skype may have frozen.
Oh, he's not moving.
Huh. Well, you know what? Look at the resemblance now between the skeleton and the... Jeff, can he hear us? Oh, is he on Skype still or gone?
Well, it's just as well I kept talking. Anyway, in the meantime, Rick, while we were still waiting for Jeff to come back, as I said, we all like our gear, and I've been looking with interest. I don't know if you have this week, but the annual Chris and Jordan best and worst of video for the year. Did you
I
get
did
to
see that one. Well, I think I saw their one. It was about a week ago, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did see it, and they had some interesting picks in there.
I thought so too, and it was funny. I also watched Tony Northrup, Chelsea and Tony Northrup, doing theirs as well. And it was quite interesting to see how close most of them are to each other. They did something very different, where they asked a lot of people to give their vote for the year, and they gave theirs. And one that came out on the top that you'll be pleased with nearly all of them was your Fuji.
Yes,
XT2.
It's a very good camera. It's interesting. Now, I don't think the XT2 has the ergonomics of the, for example, GH4. I think the GH4 is a miracle in ergonomics. It's beautiful how well they designed it. Everything's in the right place. The Fuji's not bad. It's pretty close, but I think there's some ergonomic differences. I wish they had done a tilt screen that went out, like a fully articulating screen, but they didn't. I think we're trying to get a hold of them, but it's not working, right?
It looks like I'm saying something naughty because I've got a thing right over my mouth.
Oh, he's calling us, right?
Oh, I'll just go over that way.
The machine froze? Really?
Oh, that's
not good.
Very strange, isn't it?
Well, that's probably Skype causing the machine to freeze.
But it was quite with both of them. All of them were saying that it was a year where not a great lot of innovation was happening with cameras.
The two main cameras were the Nikon D500 and the Fuji X-T2 as the real standouts. And before that, in the full frame arena, you had the Canon 5DSR, which was the very first 50 megapixel camera at that price range, which was under 5,000, was about 4,600. So those were probably the three major big differences last year. And there was a lot of little cameras and this and that. But, if you look at Panasonic, they really didn't do that much in terms of anything like the GH4 or the GH5, which now is going on 3 years between the original release. That's a long time for a camera manufacturer.
And that was one of the things that Tony and Chelsea was saying. They had a category of the best unshipped cameras of 2016.
The best unshipped, I know, I like that.
And it was the Fuji GFX and the Panasonic GH5 was one of them. Because they said they keep talking about it, still never seems to get here. So.
No, and Jeff H, I think, is back. He took a short vacation, but he made it back in time, so we're still running the show.
I think if you have a 50 megapixel camera, I think my first hard drive probably wouldn't hold a single file from that.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not that big. 30 megabyte hard drive was my first one.
Oh, I remember. Mine was like a 10 megabyte hard drive. That was back in the PC1. And that was a lot of money in those days for a 10 meg. It was like, man, I got a 10 megabyte hard drive. How big's yours? It's like, that's the good old days.
This is what I started with. It's a 1969 Yashica TL Super.
Yep.
Completely stainless steel. Had a screw mount on it.
Yep.
And
there's something actually pretty beautiful about all those old film cameras.
If you're ever in the woods or you're attacked by a bear, this is the camera you want. I don't know how much this thing weighs, but it's so heavy. But you can see the mirror in there.
Yep.
And whenever you take a picture, it sounds like you're closing a vault door. Listen to
Cha-chunk. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyway, this was what I started with, and the reason why was because it was I wanted to know why it worked. Yeah. Now, this was in the 90s, and I wanted to know why it worked, so I paid $50 for this and a couple of lenses, and it told me why. I mean, instead of having, of course, all the stuff we have today we just take for granted. Autofocus and the metering is so nice today.
I know.
You just had to eyeball it and try to make manual adjustments and try to get it going.
And when you look at it at the viewfinders, they're not electronic. You don't know what you're actually taking. You have
and you don't get to see your picture immediately.
No. So when you get your film, you go.
What you would do would be to bracket your exposure. You'd be taking a picture and bracket your exposure and write everything down. Picture number 1 was at these settings. Picture 2 was this. Picture 3 was this. And you would bracket your exposure. Then when you got your film back 2 weeks later, you would actually then be able to compare your exposures and what you saw and how well they turned out.
And as expensive a hobby as it is now, The film was expensive in those days to get all that developed and get good quality. And and a lot of guys used to have their own dark rooms just to even avoid that whole thing. And it was not a cheap hobby ever, but now it's a cheaper hobby, sort of, not really. But the thing is, it's amazing. We don't have to be as good a photographer now as we did before because the camera does a whole lot for you.
I find it so interesting whenever you see someone who started in digital, especially people, snap shooters. People just want to get snapshots.
Sure.
I mean, they'll take down 200 pictures just at an event or something.
Right.
This here is a professional portrait film by Kodak. I use that if I shot a wedding or did anything like that. And this is let's see. It's this is the 400 version of it. I usually used Portra 160 is what I used for weddings, but you had to change to a different film to get a different ISO type of rating.
Yep.
100, 200, 400, that type of thing, and it was really. And then you had to use filters, all the stuff that you do in Photoshop or whatever. You had to put a filter in front of the lens. I've got a bunch of those over here too.
Yeah.
You had to put a filter in front of the lens to make it do different things. Whereas now you can just apply the effect in post. And you had to do everything up front on the other, and you had to be careful. And you're really taking a picture. You're not just saying, "Oh, let's see, I'll do this, and then I'll see what I can extract from it." Because you've got 50 megapixels, you can come up with a respectable picture with a third of the frame. Back then, you had to try to take a real picture in camera, and then do it that way. I mean, things have come a long way. And while we didn't know any better about the stuff what would be available today, still I think it was more back in the old days. You had to make your shot count, so you were much more careful with the images. When you pushed the shutter, you were taking a picture.
Well, it was called PCP: point, click, and pray.
Yes, but the thing is, the prep that went into the initial pointing.
Oh, there was a lot of work in that pointing. Yes.
Oh, yes, and the difference, of course, between a professional photographer and an amateur is the fact that you don't see all of the professional photographer shots.
No, that's true. And I remember in the old days also you had this, and they would wait and wait, and eventually it would go click. And you had a burst of one because every shot was precious because otherwise you spent a fortune developing this stuff. Weddings were different. People coming down the aisle, freeze! Click. Thank you. Continue forth, please.
Really capture the moment.
One time I did some shots of a local playhouse. They had this play. They were doing Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And my sister-in-law was involved. She was the lead in the play. And they brought me in to take cast pictures, after, like on the last day they were doing the last performance. But they insisted on not bringing up the lights. And I had to take these pictures. Wait a minute. I used the Canon EOS Elan, and this is a film camera, and I used the Canon EOS Elan to take those pictures. And what they had to do, I was explaining to them what they were going to have to do. They would all come up to a particular point in the scene, and they would go. And then I was doing 30-second exposures trying to get.
Oh, wow. Trying to get light into that.
But it was so funny watching the expressions on people's faces because, everything, all this film things you do. They actually turned out really well. There was no blur. People froze at a good, comfortable place in a particular scene. But that was a bit of a battle trying to get those images. It was funny, though.
And we actually have some of the pictures that you've taken. Do you want to play some of that? You can maybe explain some of what these are.
Oh, sure. This is more my hobbyist type of artistic-y type of things, if you want to call it
Here
that.
we go.
Now, I had a tendency to take, I would take the image, and then in post, I would maybe lighten, darken a little bit. This one here I actually turned to sepia and softened it slightly because I thought that's what it called for. I rendered a lot of my pictures in black and white or sepia because I just thought that would be a better image, and the subject called for it. And this is one that I rendered in sepia. And I found that I could get a much more vivid picture if I completely, in post, blew out the colors and then converted it to black and white or sepia. It gave it a much more vivid picture. But this is one of my sepia shots taken at a local lake here nearby. And I have a tendency with mine, rather than these big sweeping vistas, I have a tendency to zoom in more on details. It's just one of my oddities, I guess. Oh, this is actually right outside my front door on the deck. The leaves had all fallen, and I needed to fill up the wood bin. Thanks for reminding me. But we have a lot of fall. This was taken at the same lake that the ducks were in. And what I got a kick out of, I took this, I saw that guy down there, and he was getting ready to cast. And there is this big high side where a road goes over close to the lake. I was driving up, and I told my wife, I said, hand me my camera. And I took that through the window of the car.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Because I saw the shot developing, and I saw him, and I stopped. She handed me my camera. I got the thing on, got it, and before he cast, and then I snapped the picture through the window of the car. And you can actually see the line coming out of the guy's fishing pole. And again, these are lower resolutions because of when they were taken. This one here was probably 7 megapixels or so. This was actually taken outside my house as well. Again, I zoomed in for the details, but I noticed this icicle hanging from a gutter on my house, and it was dripping regularly. And so what I did was set up a tripod and zoomed, everything was melting, so I just zoomed in on it really closely and timed when the drops were coming down. I took 3 or 4 shots, and this was the best of those shots. And I know it's an odd shape to it, but it just called for that type of cropping, and I wasn't trying to put it in a frame anyway. I was just using it online and putting it on Flickr. And so I just went ahead and rendered that one that way with that type of crop because of the subject matter. This was one of those things where everybody takes like a day in the life of somebody, of everybody on the same day, take a picture. I titled this one, There, Now I've Got Your Money. But anyway, I told the lady what I was doing, and that's what she did. I snapped that one. That's the one I turned in. A day in the life. I used a filter on this one. I actually used full black and white film for it. And I used a filter on it. I have one of those Starlight type filters. I've actually got it sitting over here. And I put the filter in front of the camera, and then it blew out the thing really a lot. Made it really, really bright, but I actually did a little bit of that myself because I just wanted that shine and those star cross lights on it like that. And this was at a car show, a local car show as well. This guy never knew I took this shot. I was doing some portraits, some senior portraits for his sister, and we were walking around the park, and I was doing these shots outside, and we all sat down to wait for someone to catch up with us. And so I was sitting back behind him a bit, and he was just sitting there like that, and it's her brother, and he was sitting there like that, and I took that picture. And, of course, the camera made a sound, but he never turned around and never knew I took it until I turned these pictures in. I gave them the shots whenever I was done. This was one of the edits. I love this picture. It's one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken, and it was totally unaware. He had no idea I took this picture until they saw it in the results of the final shots. This is taken from my door on the other side of the house from where the wood stack was at, and this is handheld, and I just zoomed in on it, and there's your nuthatch. Those things run up and down the tree upside down. It's really funny. But it seemed to me this would be a good crop for this picture. This one's almost square, and it just, the way he's sticking out, and then the branch down below sticks out, and there is a branch coming out of his head, but it seemed to be a good composition, I thought. This is a macro shot. That is a spider web with a water drop suspended in it. And again, I got a tripod and took the camera, and it took a bit of a longer exposure to do this one. But I really got into macro for quite a while, and this is one of my favorite macro shots. Just a water drop. This is in my front yard. Again, the cardinal is the state bird of West Virginia, but this bird landed right in the middle, and it's such a vivid splash of color amongst the rest of it. And I like the network of the branches of the pine or the rosebush, and he just landed there and politely posed for me, and it worked out really well. That's my daughter standing down in front of the thing, and she's about 5'10". And that is a local waterfall. When you get a lot of rain, this is up Route 60. It's probably about an hour from my house. And most people don't ever get to see it with this type of power because it's usually more of a trickle.
Yeah.
But I had my daughter. My daughter's always been cooperative. She thought I had one eye when she was 3 or 4 because I was always taking pictures. She's always posed well for me, always been completely cooperative. I did her senior shots and everything, but she has always been very cooperative. I said, go in there and stand so we can get some scale. And this thing was just a raging waterfall, and most people have not seen this waterfall with that type of violence to it. But
that's a good shot. And she's only
specifically to see it, knowing how much rain we'd had.
And she's 5'10", but she looks small there.
Yeah, she does. She looks kind of small, and just the violence of the thing coming down was very unusual for that waterfall.
So how tall are you, Jeff?
Oh, I'm about 5'11".
Really? So you're a big girl.
My wife swears I'm 6 foot, but the doctor says 5'11".
But she's a big girl.
Yeah, she is. There she is again. And, again, we were at the firing range, and I am not standing directly in front of this. If you want to know,
yes,
I actually took the camera and stuck it over in front and looked at the viewfinder from the side.
Yes.
And took the shot. Yeah.
Now, we were curious. We couldn't quite... Was that a Beretta?
That was a Bursa 9mm.
Bursa.
Yeah,
okay.
It's an Argentinian.
Oh, it's
gun.
a 9. It's not a 45. Okay.
No. Sure looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
of course,
we were thinking it was a 45. That's a
like
good shot.
A howitzer, whenever you're looking in the front end of it, that's the intimidation factor of the picture. It's not. Now, again, she has her finger up on the trigger guard instead of on the. Yeah. And so she was doing it right, but at the same time, it's only a 9mm, but boy, it looks like a cannon whenever you're on the front end of it. And that was the point of the shot, was the intimidation factor, where she's got the expression too. Okay, the title of this one was "When Birds Play Practical Jokes." I just thought that was funny. We had this birdhouse, and it had been sitting outside as a decorative thing, and the little perch had fallen off of it. And so I had this this little firecracker, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if a bird played a joke on another bird and, wait till the bird lands on it and lights it?
That's funny.
And this is my daughter again at their prom. And she, I just followed her around taking pictures. I just did a photo shoot with her. My wife was a teacher's aide at the school, and so we were invited to the prom as well, and so we did that. And this is, again, a very old classic type pose that you might see back in the 50s or the 40s, one of those Hollywood type of things. And she was over against the wall there. This place was a big stone fortress, like a castle they were having this in. And she was over there, and she just reached up and pushed her hair back and then moved on. I said, hold on, stop. Do that again.
Well, she did a perfect glamour shot with the hair back. That's the perfect look that you get with that, with the face, the line of the shoulder, the open shoulder. It's a sexy, very glamorous shot.
Well, yeah, and I saw it go by, and I had her to recreate it because I said, no, that's the shot. and she's again always been totally cooperative, and she's quite the photographer herself, and has an art degree and things like that. So
really? Okay, she's a pretty girl.
Oh, thank you. That's the prettiness basically comes from my wife's side of the family, but she's personality. She's very, very much like me.
Interesting.
This is on my deck. Again, zooming in to get the details, and the sun was shining hard and the shadow and all of that, and I actually laid the camera down on the deck and just let the depth of field just go out into the distance there, and that way you see the detail of the nail and the shadow and the wood that was actually cracking at that point. So these are the kind of shots I just love. Whenever you're looking at a detail, you would walk by and say, oh, there's a nail up, and you'd knock it down with a hammer, which I did after I took the shot. But
I would call it. I would call it Jeffrey
this is the kind of detail that I like to show in my image. I'm sorry, Jeff. What'd you say?
I said I would call that one Jeffrey Holbrook's plan of attack. That could be.
Yeah, we're gonna nail that one down. Okay, my wife cooperated on me with this one. She let me use one of her colanders, and I had the camera on the tripod pointing down into it, and I had sort of something with collar down under the thing and everything like that. It was sitting on a stool outside, and what I did was dropped a handful of dominoes into it and had a high shutter speed and took the shot. And of course, I always take several shots, so I took probably 5 or 6 of this one, and I liked the arrangement of the bouncing dominoes with this one the best. So that's how that one came to be. This is my sister-in-law's cat. We were over at their house, and she's just a sweetie, and she's actually licking my hand. And the sun was streaming in from the window, and I just put my hand up there, and she just, was real sweet and started licking my hand, and I just went ahead and took a shot with one hand on the camera and the other hand, up to the cat. So
you shot you shot that into the sun.
Yes.
I always love those kind of effects where it darkens everything up except what's right in front of you, and it gives it a really cool look.
Yeah, you just walk by and you see things, and like, oh, there's a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a picture. If you are taking big sweeping vistas on any place you're standing, you may see 3 pictures.
Yep.
If you zoom in for details, there are 1,000 pictures within distance of where you're standing at any given moment. There's 1,000 pictures you could take if you zoom into the details.
Yep. Now, I would imagine you probably would enjoy being a street photographer who just takes people when they're not watching, and I love that kind of shot. It's just interesting.
I have some of those. I just was running into the problem of how many pictures I could send you. Actually, there's a film crew.
We have a limit of 500 for any given show.
I took a picture of them, unbeknownst. They're interviewing somebody, and I have a picture of them on the street in Charleston. And they never knew I took that picture either, so I don't know if I'd be sued or not. But anyway, I was running into a problem with how many pictures I could send you. I think I sent you 6 emails with 2 or 3 apiece on them.
I think we got most of them.
I was really having a hard time getting any. I probably sent you, I've got several hundred pictures probably that are available, but I just sent you a few for representatives.
No, those were good. Those were really good.
Well,
it kind of gives people an idea of the kind of work you did. And that was all film. That wasn't digital.
Now, these were low-grade digital shots. The
were they?
only
Okay.
thing I have that I did with film right here, I don't have any good high-quality scans of any of my film work, but there is this.
Slides.
Let me try something here. This is kind of a rig. I don't know how well this would work. Let's see if I can see if you can see that. There we go.
Just about. Yeah.
No, it's not focusing,
your daughter?
is it? Okay. Well, anyway.
No.
This was a photo shoot that I did with Mrs. West Virginia. She needed some portfolio shots, and again, she knew my sister-in-law real well. And at that point, I was willing to do any photography, anywhere, anytime, for the most part, just because I loved it and I wanted to do some stuff. And so, I've got several other of these of scenery, things like that. This is our state capitol. We put it in front of my head, maybe it'll shine better. But this is our state capitol. I have a whole bunch of slides here, but those are back in the day before you had PowerPoints. You would actually have to take a
I remember that,
and have this thing that shined the lights and then change from slide to slide to where people could watch them.
And you'd have a box with the carousel. Remember the carousel, and it would just go through every
and it's like,
shot.
Then you hated when you went to somebody's house and they wanted to show you their vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are loading the car. And you would sit there for 2 hours while they were so excited for you to see their pictures.
That's true.
And then the new slide projectors came in, which even made it worse because they were automatic. So each slide lasted for 5 seconds. So you had to watch them for 5 seconds and think, oh, there's only 365 of them to go through. So
now you guys might, since we're talking about old stuff, we just found this.
Oh.
A couple of minutes before the show. It was one of my dad's things, and I forgot I even had it. And it worked.
Oh,
it actually
that
still
is-
worked. I had to wind it up, and sure enough, it was working. And it tells us that we're about,
excellent.
10 to 4? 5 to 4?
Yep. Into
I
four,
am
yeah.
I am totally immersed in old things
This
and
is
things
fun.
the old folks had, if you the way you'd say it around here.
It's just kind of cool. This was one
That's
of those
amazing. I
vest
love
ones.
that.
They would put it on their vest, and it was pretty cool.
Yes, before you had all your wrist stuff.
That's right. Now we did a little bit. We were going to talk a little bit. This is the Canon EOS M5, their new mirrorless camera.
Oh, I didn't know they had that out.
It's brand new. It came out about less than a month ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't know if you can see. Oh, let me take the lens cap off.
It says
So you
about
can
where
see
you're not
what
supposed to
I am
cut
seeing
things, but
right
I'm
now,
kinda
which
getting there.
I can't
I
see
love
what
that
I'm seeing
flip down
right now.
screen too.
So you can see a little bit of what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
But I'm in video mode, so it's probably not going to work too well. And of course, when I do that, I can't see anything because I can kind of look through the viewfinder, but it's small. But this is mirrorless. It's a full APS-C sensor, so it's a 24.4 megapixel camera. It's very small. It has replaceable lenses. You can put the Canon adapter on this and use all of your EOS lenses, the FF,
wow.
all the full frame and other lenses on it. It shoots beautifully. But I did a little video earlier of just a video shot with this good podcasting camera. Want to play that?
Yes.
And hi everyone, I'm Rick Zanotti, and this is a quick test of the Canon EOS M5. So I am right now handheld. This has pretty good image stabilization in video only, and I'm being lit by, there it is. Oops, went past it. There we go. That is the Westcott Flex light. It's a really cool light. So as I come back around, I'm going to touch on my face. So now the focus should technically be tracking as I move around. It should be tracking on my face. So as I make a full circle, there goes the flex light coming back around. And now I am being lit by the flex light. So quick, simple test of the Westcott Flex light with the Canon EOS M5 mirrorless camera. This is their latest generation mirrorless. Pretty nice little camera. Works well and takes good pictures. It's an APS-C sensor. In essence, it's the same sensor as the 80D, which is, and probably the 70D for that matter, which is a great sensor. Anyway, that's it. Just a quick test. I'm Rick Zanotti for Tech Down Over. Have a good one, everyone. Oh, and by the way, Happy New Year. Unfortunately for us, we couldn't hear it, but the live the stream will hear it. I went, darn, I forgot that. We don't turn on. We don't turn on the.
Jeff had warned me about that before. So
Yeah,
I was
we
going,
don't.
Hey, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. No, I wasn't gonna do
Yeah,
that.
we don't turn on the audio because it tends to cause a lot of latency sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially when Jeff's on. We can do it if we're like local, but when Jeff's on, it's a 7,000-mile trek, and audio just doesn't go as fast as video, and he winds up getting anywhere between a 1 and 5 or even longer delay.
Nice.
So
And I usually hear myself back, and then so I can't speak because I can't understand
Right.
what I'm saying because I keep
so
hearing
we
myself
decided to
back.
turn it off. It's just safer.
That's good though,
No
Rick.
problem.
It seems to enough. It was a good shot of your new office because we haven't seen your new office.
That's
your
true.
office.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did the
So-
little Brian De Palma circle around me thing.
Yeah.
So sitting on my chair, just going in circles. Whee!
That camera. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say all the comments I've been hearing about that new Canon have been quite good because the earlier ones there was a lot of negative
Yes.
response to the
Now
first
there
one,
was
but
something
this was-
stupid like this. You have to
I
look
didn't understand why
down.
that came down in
I know
front of your
it's
tripod.
weird. Rather than go up like the old one, where at least you could see it, now you have to look down, which kind of makes you look like you're looking down. Then you have to look back up, so it's a little dumb.
Well,
I mean,
where it comes down to, if it's on a tripod and you
You
want to
can't
do
do
a
it on a
family
tripod.
shot, then it's in front of the tripod.
That's right. They really blew that. So, when you wonder about
not very funny.
billion-dollar companies that spend years designing these things and they come out with such moronic designs, you just go, what are you guys getting paid for? I mean, what? It's stupid.
Why don't they make a prototype, hand it to an amateur photographer?
No, Canon wouldn't do that.
Because a professional has got certain prescribed ways that they do things,
Yes.
and so they're going to have this thing. Oh yeah, that's good. But if you hand it to an amateur, somebody who's bootleg photography, then they would say, well, yeah, this thing needs to come from around the side or up from the top because I'm running into trouble with it with my tripod.
But I think Canon suffers a little from, we've designed it, it's perfect, now love it.
That sounds like Apple.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, with Canon, yes, they've designed it, they love it, but they've got the 80D, which has got a perfect flip-out viewfinder.
Why not do the same on this? They could have done it. It's big enough.
And so they've got the design, they've got the patents, they've got everything there, and that's the best one, same as the Panasonic GH4s and the FZ1000. That's the best. I won't buy a camera unless it's got that type of flip-out viewfinder because I think that's really practical, and also you can turn it around and shut it, close it so you don't scratch the screen when you're not using it. So.
But no, that would require some thought.
So. Oh, shoot, yeah. One of the things I really like about that, honestly, and I'm used to having a handful of camera, that looks like, I guess where it's mirrorless and stuff, that looks like that would be great for the type of photography I like to do, basically target acquisition, setup, take your shot, again, detail, things like that. That looks like that'd be a great camera just to carry around. I have not gotten on board at all yet with doing real photography with a phone. They say the best camera to have to take your picture with is the one you have with you.
Right.
Well, that's good. And I have taken a few shots, to send something to my wife and say, hey, look at this. But serious setting up a shot and taking photography, artsy photography, I want a real camera.
Right.
For that. And that looks like that would be perfect. You don't mind throwing out the price point on that American,
it's about
do you?
$1,200, so it's not cheap. I mean,
well, I know the mirrorless stuff's brand new. It would take a while for it to
and it
come
is full. It's basically an 80D in mirrorless format. That's really the only difference.
Okay.
I believe it has.
So how much then is the ADD?
The ADD is bigger.
It would have to be bigger.
The ADD costs about $1,100 too. So they're real close.
Oh, okay.
They're very close.
Might as well spring the other 100 and buy that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much difference. It has a nice grip. It feels good in the hand.
Sure, and it's not huge. I mean,
it's not nice, huge.
That would be a nice, yet, like you say, bootleg camera.
Let me put it this way, so you could see. It's got a pretty good. And this will probably scare you, but it's got a pretty good. Can you see it there?
Yeah, there you go. That's big.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
It's got a 3.2 inch LCD, which is actually bigger than the ADD, which is sort of weird.
They don't have a way you can mount a tripod from the top, do they?
No, that'd be that. Well, actually, I guess you could if you had some sort of something that went into the shoe. A shoe tripod. Now that could make millions.
And you heard it here first.
Yeah,
somebody's going to do it.
Tripod.
Hurry up, Rick.
We've copyrighted it, patented right as we're talking, so you can't steal it. And you could actually put it right into it and just hang it. You could do that.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, and then now it's time to get camerashoetripod.com.
That's right, camerashoetripod.com.
Right now, yeah.
But actually, you could do that with that. If you had a little tripod, put it right in there, and you just hang it. Can't use your flash anymore, but that's okay.
To hurt the hot shoe.
Yeah, it probably would hurt it, maybe.
So, depends on the way the camera itself.
Rick, do you know Chris and Jordan's, their two top video cameras were for the year, that they said, was the new FZ 2500.
I was surprised at that, yeah.
Placement, and that for a video camera. And their best one for the year, their pick was the Osmo.
Yes.
The DJI
now, how
Osmo,
odd was that? I was going, that's weird. I have the Osmo, so does Jeff. And it's a really cool machine, but the FZ 2500 is new. And I was just, I'm saying FZ, I'm hanging around Jeff too much. The FZ 2500.
That's all right. I'm used to the Zs.
Yeah. He Zed and I Zed. Yeah, I know. That's
Z1, Z2, and
Z2,
Z3.
Yep. But I was actually surprised that camera was in there, but it looks like a good camera. They've added stuff to. You notice now that the FZ has an audio and a headphone input.
And it does have the neutral density filters built in, like our HX
Yep.
C1000,
which we both sold. Yeah, which we both sold. That's one of my favorite cameras. I sold it.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites too, but
he liked it. I didn't care for it. I thought it was so.
You guys are really getting me bit with the bug. I'm definitely. I mean, I gave my last, my digital camera. It was a 30D. It's been, a while ago when she was in college. She's like 26 now. So I gave it to her to use in her college work when she was doing her art degree and everything. And so now I am professional camera-less. That wasn't a professional model anyway, but you gentlemen are getting me to where my wife's going to have the proverbial cow, as they say, because I'm going to have to start doing some research and checking into this. I'm wanting to do some more photography, with respectable megapixels.
Okay, Mrs. Holbrook, I need to talk to you quietly and privately for a moment. Jeff is having a little midlife crisis right now, and it has to do with money, lots of money. But it's going to a good cause, things that click and make noises and record things. So that's what every person his age should have. It's important. So don't mind it. It's nothing to do with you. It's just something he has to do. We call it gas. Yes. And yes, at our age, gas is a little more common. But no, this is not that kind of gas. This is gear acquisition syndrome. There's no cure for it. No matter how much you buy, you need more. So, Gas-X won't work. You actually need more gear. But there may be a cure, and that's usually the only one who can actually apply the cure is a wife. But it's harsh, so you don't want to do that. So be nice to him. Buy more gear.
The title of that image was "We Get the Point."
Yeah, I want my camera.
I want my camera, and I want it now.
Want it now? Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. I'll have to make sure she sees this. No, I'm serious. I can bring it up on the TV downstairs and just let her
Who
watch
is that
it.
madman?
Hey, babe, there's a message to you here.
He's from California. He's crazy.
No, she is amazingly helpful. And again, she wants me to have everything that we can afford. Whenever I want something, she takes it as a personal mission to make sure I get it. I mean, she is so cooperative and so sweet about all of this, and is always, when we were doing weddings, she wanted to do them more than I did. Me, my blood pressure and heart attack status probably couldn't take it. I've never had a heart attack, but I would have if I'd have kept doing weddings. I'm such a perfectionist that I put so much pressure on myself. You can lose friends and relatives whenever you do weddings if you don't do them correctly. I've never lost any friends, and that's good. But she loved doing those weddings, and I would never do one without her, because she was over there, fluffing dresses and straightening ties, and she's got the gift of crowd control. She is so sweet and so nice, and everybody just loves her, and all she has to do is say, "Okay, everybody, line up right here. We'll get you lined up. We're going to take the picture." And she can take huge men that are 6'5" and 6'6" and get them out there, and she moves them over here and she moves them over there, because she is so sweet that when she makes a demand of some type, she really has control of the situation, because they don't want to disappoint her.
Now, how tall is she?
She's about 5'9".
So she's tall too. Okay.
Yeah. So, like I say, my wife's 5'9", my daughter's 5'10", and I'm 5'11", so it's kind of like a little stair step.
Because usually the taller women are easier, they're nicer. The short ones,
she's a sweetie.
The short ones are tough.
Oh,
I know. Mine's 5'1".
She would have married Hoss Cartwright. If he'd have been available, she would have married Hoss Cartwright.
You mentioned that on that last show I was watching of you guys.
He was, because as tall as
let me tell you a story about.
He could sweep her off her feet, and he was so nice to women, but he was taken, and so I'm kind of second choice.
It was a shame. Now let me tell you a story about Hoss Cartwright. I was watching your catch up, and thinking back, Hoss Cartwright. I knew Hoss Cartwright.
Oh wow!
His daughter went to school with me.
Wow!
She went to L.A. High, Los Angeles High School. She looked a little like him. She was, definitely that side of the family. She was a big, tall girl, really sweet. I'm trying to remember her name right now. I didn't know her well, but I met her a couple of times.
And he has a son named Dirk, but I don't know his daughter's name.
You're right. I never met him. I don't know if he went to the same school, but she did. And it's interesting. And he lived in I know the house you were talking about because
Yes.
we used to walk right by it. It was a big house, but not big in rooms or anything. But it was a large house back then. It was a nice area. But you're right. He never went out of that area. It was actually a nice kind of middle to upper middle class area. And it was just really pretty out there. And the high school was actually not a very good high school by the time we went to it. But the people were nice, and I'm trying to remember her name, but it's been a long time already.
Still with Ms. Blocker.
Ms. Blocker. It was maybe Debbie Blocker. I can't remember. But she was nice, and met him once. He was outside doing something. We were walking by, and we waved at him and said hi, and he goes hi, and we said, we go to school with your daughter, and he goes, oh, great. And he was just a gentle giant. Mm-hmm. Just a really nice guy. When I saw you talking about that, I go, that's funny. I actually met her, and I knew, and we met him one time, just on the way to school, because he was literally on the way to school.
That's exciting.
So
That's pretty cool because you just get the impression that he was one of the nicest men in the world.
I think he was.
Consistently do 20 years of being that nice on camera
I know.
without slipping somewhere. You know?
Yeah, it's always a shame when they go fast. And just recently, in this last week, we lost, let's see, Carrie Fisher.
And then Carrie Fisher's mother.
And her mom, Debbie Reynolds. Debbie Reynolds, a very famous actress from the 40s and 50s, and she was just a darling in the 60s, too. Probably more 50s and 60s. And it's one in a row. When Carrie Fisher died, she was doing the funeral arrangements, and she had a stroke. The stress was just too much. She went to the hospital, and she died shortly thereafter, and you just go, wow, that was just, it was a big one. We lost before that this week, Alan Thicke. He passed away after a hockey game. He was playing hockey. He was around 70 years old, played a hockey game, and died. Felt badly on the rink, got off, felt okay, and then died. Funny how that happens. But they've lost quite a few actors, and these weren't necessarily the bad actors. These were the nice, fairly nice people. So you just go,
Anyway, we've gone a little bit over.
We have. We've been talking too much.
I'm kind of bad about that. When I was in elementary school, I always got in trouble for having bad handwriting and talking too much.
That's a good attribute for a podcaster.
Yeah, I got in trouble for the same thing.
This is the only thing I could do. If I get arthritis and can't move or anything, hopefully I'll still have my voice and I can just sit here like a lump and talk on microphone.
Well, we have gone a little bit. What is it? Yeah, we have gone about an hour and 20 minutes. It's a little bit longer than usual.
I have really enjoyed this, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
It's really
and
a privilege to be part of the RELATECASTS.
And for all you people who are actually still here, hey, don't you guys have a life? I mean, really. But seriously, they have a weekly show. It's called The Weekly Catch-Up. It's on RELATECASTS, and just go subscribe to it so you'll know when they're on. What days are you guys on?
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Both of us on the same day, actually.
It's on Hump Day.
Yeah.
That's
for me, it's early morning. For him, it's in the evening.
That's pretty good. You're like Lady Hawk, both of you. Can't meet each other except when it's like between those hours.
Well, I work night shift, and he works day shift, and that's why we're both available at the same time. It's really cool.
Did you ever see the movie Lady Hawk?
Yes.
It's a great movie, but they can only see each other.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, Rutger Hauer, who's the good bad guy. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's tough. He's an old knight. And Matthew Broderick, who's the young upstart, who he says, "You have been chosen now." He goes, "Sorry, but I've talked to God all the time. He never mentioned you." The sword comes out, and he goes, "Okay, I'm good." It was a great movie, but his love interest was made into a wolf at night, or a hawk. She was the hawk at night, or was he the hawk? She was the wolf, and he was the hawk. Was that what it was? No, she was Lady Hawk.
She was the hawk.
She was the hawk, and he was the wolf.
One was a creature of the day, the other was a creature of the night.
And they could never meet. They could only see each other like a couple of minutes as the night and the day kind of mixed together, and then they would. And that was by an evil archbishop. It was actually a fun movie.
It was great.
It was one of the.
That's why we'll never see Rick on the weekly catch-up, because it's about 3 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday.
3 a.m. in the morning. That would be early. Yeah. I wouldn't bother anybody, just sitting going,
This is our guest. Rick,
he's fallen asleep.
Yeah. Gas? Did I say gas?
Yes. Coffee. Yeah.
So anyway,
Anyway, Rick,
so
Rick,
watch the show.
before-
It is on. They're recording it, so you don't have to watch it live with them because that would make you a creature of the night too. So just watch it during the day. Have fun. It's a talk about a lot of different things. You guys just go on and on about all sorts of subjects, and it's fun. It's an interesting show because nothing beats good dialogue and people just being people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fun of
Just
it all.
before we go, Rick, seeing as this is our last show for the year, I'd just like to thank you as well, Rick, for doing all the work you have done, putting the show on, but also all of our guests this year. Did you realise, including Jeff now, we've had 20 guests, which makes it 22 because we've had 2 repeats. And so I'd like to thank all of them for coming on to the show this year and a lot of them have been really big, high-profile people that really, they've given up their time. And they're not going to get a big audience, huge audience from us, but we've had some really top, like Tony Northrup, come on and do that.
Larry Becker.
And Larry Becker. There's just so many different people that have been on here. And Jason Lanier,
Jason Lanier, Curtis Judd.
J.P. Morgan, top photographers. And,
wonderful people. And it shows one thing. If you're doing a podcast, here's a little bit of a lesson about podcasting. Don't be afraid to ask people who are well known to come on. More often than not, they love coming on, and they're wonderful people. We even had the angry photographer, Ken Wheeler, who's actually a great guy.
He's a really great guy to have on. I really like him. So.
And a lot of people don't like him because he's honest. He says what he thinks. You don't have to agree with him, but he's actually pretty bright. And he's also a master of a lot of different things, including photography. Magnetism is one of his big things. He's like a professional physicist without the physics degree, showing, hey, you don't need the degree to be a brilliant genius. But we've had we have had a great year and a lot of fun interviews. We had the boys from the Camera Store TV.
Yep.
And they were great. We've just had some good people on, and Jacqueline Ka, who does a lot of the recruiting for the show since about, I guess, March, April. Mm-hmm. She's been recruiting a lot of the people. We give her lists, and she goes off and calls them. She's indomitable. Clark's been switching the show now for a couple of years. And Clark's going to be leaving us soon. He's going to be moving up to Boise, Idaho. Another place.
I was in Idaho once. It was very windy.
Windy. Depends when you go.
Beautiful. But
no, you should live out here. We got winds like you wouldn't believe. It's bad sometimes. But so he's been doing a lot of the grunt work on the shift, on the switching and everything else, and he put the shows together. So he's been doing a great job. And we've got, like you said, Jeff, we're very grateful to everyone we've had this year. And it's been a lot of fun. There'll be more next year. We're going to plan on having more guests and more just fun times. So, we even had Martin from VMix.
Yep, Martin Sinclair from VMix.
Martin and Tom Sinclair. Martin Sinclair, no relationship, though. You think one's the long-lost son of the other. We're not sure.
I just like talking about Tom Sinclair, just calling him the streaming idiot, because
that's right. He has a show called Streaming Idiots, and he's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
So it's been a really good year. If we haven't mentioned you, it's not because we don't remember you, but we are a little bit senile sometimes, and we didn't plan this. So, but you're all special, and we've enjoyed every single one of you. Thank you for coming on. And with that said, hey, Happy New Year, everyone. Keep in mind, next year is a new year, so treat it that way. Don't do all the same stupid things you did in 2016. Do better things in 2017. It's going to be a good year. Thanks, okay. Jeff and Jeff, B&H. We're doing great.
Bye for now.
Bye for now, everyone. Bye-bye.